Can everybody hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Sorry about the last office hours. It was just a confluence of everybody getting sick at the same time and other things. So, so sorry about that and the late notice. But we're all here today. Before we get started, Dave Raker, do you want to mention the APA talk you're going to be giving next week?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I'll be giving a talk on Wednesday, the 17th. Be between 1 and 2 p.m. Eastern. And that's for the APPA. And we'll be talking about our project at the University of Toledo with the system that we've installed, integration of our buildings and photovoltaic array, and a bit about some use cases.
Okay.
So I don't actually have the information in front of me as to where exactly you sign up for that if you are interested.
I posted it to the mailing list. If anybody needs it, I can post it in chat again. Okay, so yeah, that should be a great talk. So yeah, if you don't have the information for it and need it, ping me on chat or on the at VOLTTRON at PNNL.gov, and we can get you connected up with that. All right. We had a couple topics that we wanted to cover today. I think we'll start with James and Chandrika, or if you're both on, did you want to talk about the new developments with the WeatherAgent?
Sure. So we are in development of an additional weather agent, this time for the DarkSky weather API. This agent will work in many ways like the previous weather.gov agent in terms of how the RPC calls will work. The major differences is that the DarkSky agent will require an API key, which you can obtain for free from DarkSky, but that does impose either a limit on the number of calls you can make per day, or you might have to, if you exceed that limit and want more, you'll have to pay for additional calls. They're fairly cheap, so if that's something you need, maybe hopefully not a big deal, but otherwise you'll have a 1,000 call limit per day. The agent does still include caching, so that's a feature that will help reduce the amount of calls you have. Additionally, this agent provides multiple sort of calls worth of data per given call, which again will help reduce the actual amount of calls needed. Just like the weather.gov agent, there's a point name mapping system, so you can map to the standardized CF naming convention scheme. There will be, for this agent, the ability to change the units, the output units, because the data is a bit more consistent and better laid out than what you would get from weather.gov. And other than that, there will be a configuration option which will allow you to determine whether or not you want to use keep a cap on the number of API calls to help prevent costs. And I think that pretty much wraps up the current development. We are going to be working on adding a history feature as well, which is something that the weather.gov agent didn't provide. But DarkSky will, so that will be upcoming, and hopefully we'll have this out relatively soon.
Okay, thanks.
James, can you maybe James can summarize like what are all the existing features? And I mean, it's been a while since we talked about the weather, so just to list.
Sure.
James, you mentioned the differences, but can you just say, okay, these are all the features and this is the input that it accepts, like it accepts lat long, or does it accept something else?
Sure, sure, I can do that. Let me bring up the agent.
Just a quick, like, no, oh, these are all the features, A, B, C, and.
Sure. So there are two main API calls for the DarkSky agent. One is for current data and forecast data. The current forecast call includes, obviously, current data, but it also includes hourly, minutely, and daily data. Hourly for the next, I believe, 48 hours, minutely for the next hour, and daily for the next 8 days. The agent will provide all of those points. I'm not sure how useful many of them will be. Particularly the minutely data is pretty sparse, but the feature is there. The current data works essentially like you would expect for the weather.gov agent. As far as input, both calls use lat long, so you don't have to worry about trying to track down a station ID or anything like that, like you would with the weather.gov agent. As far as what the history requires, I'm actually not sure. I haven't spent a ton of time with that yet. But it's still lat long. It's just a question of what the timing looks like. But other than that, the API or the RPC calls are very similar. The number of requested records is still available. The general format of the location dictionary is still as you would expect with the weather.gov agent. Is that anything else you'd like me to cover, Chandrika?
No, that sounds good. So essentially current, forecast, and an additional history, and all three without the use of a station ID, so you don't have to look at that. And then it also has minutely and hourly data.
Right.
Right. So that's, yeah.
Yep. I think that's it.
Okay. Great. Thanks. Any questions around the weather agent at all?
And anybody who's used DarkSky and happy with the quality of data or not happy? Because we're only testing, right? So we don't know in general the quality of data that gets returned. So in case anybody has used.
Okay, no comments on that then. Let's see. Craig, did you want to give an update on the CSR facility?
Not really. I suppose I can. Unfortunately, I just broke the web interface right before this call, so
timing.
So the live demo on this is not going to be good. But what I'm going to do is so the live demo is just not going to work today. But what I will do is I will share some of the documentation updates that have been going on, so that you can see what has been transpiring with that, and we can go from there. So I don't know how many people are new on this platform, but we have we have out on Read the Docs. We have VOLTTRON Read the Docs .io, and in here there's a whole bunch of documentation that is available for different versions of the platform. The one that I'm showing here is built locally on my system, and soon to be the new standard for the documentation. One of the things that we've been cleaning up and have added is the steps for setting up RabbitMQ and going through and installing Erlang, configuring the host name to Bootstrap. That should hopefully get everything set up and running very smoothly for you. In here, And in here, there's also a related topics, which is where we've got some different content on the backward compatibility with VOLTTRON and ZeroMQ. We've actually deployed the backward compatibility layer here on campus and is actually using that with one of our buildings. So that's good. We're going to hopefully be transitioning to more of those very soon. But the one that I wanted to point out today is agent communication to the RabbitMQ instance. And this is basically in a nutshell, it's our culmination of what has to happen in order to allow the remote certificate request, the certificate signing request to be sent back and forth from a remote platform to a secondary platform. And so in order to do that, you have to have both instances need to be RabbitMQ. There needs to be and both instances also have to be set up to support SSL. Those are the main two requirements. And then you can go through and set your agent up, and as you're doing your agent development, one of the different lifecycle events is an on-start event, and you can call the Connect rope platform right after that event happens in some sort of a looping mechanism, so that this always goes back and forth. And I've got a diagram down here that shows the process that we have thought about and expect that this is how it will work. So we've got a remote agent which has the standard auth subsystem, and then we have the remote instance, and then we have the user in the loop, which is our administrator. So the remote agent calls the connect remote platform on the auth subsystem, and that posts a web request to the remote VOLTTRON instance, and it will automatically get back pending because the administrator hasn't approved that specific request. There's a UI I showed 2 weeks ago, I believe. I showed the UI that actually worked. Now there's some updated styling, and like I said, I broke it right before this, so I'm not going to show it today. But I will probably make a video between now and the next office hour, and we'll put that up instead, and that way this will show up. But anyways, the user has the ability to approve a remote agent access or deny remote agent access, or they can delete, which basically resets and gets rid of the certificate and the CSR off of the server, so that you just won't be able to see it. Doesn't prevent any agents that you approved from still connecting. It just removes the CSR, so you don't see that listed as an agent that's connecting anymore. So when the user says approve, the signed certificate is returned to the auth subsystem, and the auth subsystem will attempt to connect to the remote instance using that returned signed certificate, and then control is returned back to the remote agent, and then that agent can use any of the functionality of that specific agent to talk to that remote instance. Denying is basically the exact same. except we've added something that when the agent is denied, it will automatically call its core stop. So the agent will stop and no longer be running on the initiating platform. This is another thing that agent won't start up properly if you do this in the start, because it will continually be denied until it's deleted or accepted, approved on the admin UI. So any questions about this workflow or these workflows?
Okay. Yeah, I think the video, the working video probably.
Yeah, the working video will be much better.
So, okay. Well, thanks, Craig. So, so yeah, so that's a feature of the upcoming, the improved RabbitMQ version of things.
Sorry, Thomas speaking here. Can I ask when that documentation will be available to the public?
Yeah, the documentation will be available. This documentation will go into the RabbitMQ branch, which is out there on Read the Docs. It should be out there by the end of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
Okay. Yep. Thanks. And yeah, so there's that RabbitMQ test branch out there with the documentation. If when that's posted, if you're interested in trying it out and providing feedback, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Thanks.
Okay. All right. See, any questions around that? If not, then just wanted to mention that so every year there's a VOLTTRON users meeting. The next users meeting will be August 29th and 30th in Richland, Washington. Here hosted at PNNL, same location and venue as last year. We'll be getting the process started, and we'll get some links out when they're ready. But just wanted to let you guys know so that you can start thinking about it, and if you're interested in booking your travel. So for those who haven't been before, the format is usually a 2-day event. The first day is people talking about their use cases and how to apply the platform, along with updates from the technical team of what's been done in the past year, what's upcoming, that sort of thing. And then the second day is geared more towards a hands-on, in-depth discussion of the technology. So last year, we had 3 breakout sessions where we talked about, one breakout session was talking about the deployments that have been done, how people are using it in the field. Another one was around the RabbitMQ refactor, and then the third one was, I believe, a hands-on with drivers getting set up. Kyle Monson led that tutorial, and so we'll do something similar to that for this next year, or for this one in August, and we'll have a session on security. So there's a security working group that has been meeting to collect use cases of how VOLTTRON's being used and what the security implications are, and how to mitigate security threats with the platform, and where new development can be done. And so we'll have a session on that, and some other sessions. So if you're interested in going, just let me know, and I'll publish out a link for registration and that sort of thing when that's all set up. If you have topics that you would like to see covered, that would also be much appreciated. So volttron@pnnl.gov. If you email that for topic suggestions or research that you'd like to see presented, just let us know. And I can post the link to last year's if people aren't familiar with this and want to see what types of things get covered. So just a second, and I will do that. So that's the link for last year's event. All right. If there's no questions about that, then I'll throw it open for open topic. Are there any topics people want to discuss or any questions people have?
Hi. Just a quick question. With the Python 2.7 deprecation fast approaching, I was just wondering for update on the Python 3.6.
Yeah, right as soon as we get 6.0 out, we're going to be hitting that strong and heavy for the rest of the, that will be probably debuted, if not right before the users meeting in August. It will be at the users meeting in August.
So basically,
like complete, finished.
Right. So we've got a majority of the coding done. Now it's down to getting all the tests to pass and that sort of thing.
And needing to merge all of the message bus, new message bus stuff into it.
Yep.
So
Sounds
actually,
good.
that was going to be my question too. It's is the where does that code live besides in my repo?
I believe James has it in his as well.
Okay.
And I'll be taking a look at that to start finishing it up after the 6.0 is done.
Okay.
Done.
Okay. Yeah, because was it Elise and I were like 90% of the way done with it when I left the lab.
We continue to do a bit more work on it as well, but we're not finished. And I also think that development merge might be a little bit of a test. But,
So yeah, well, as Craig said, once we get this finalized 6.0 out, then we'll refocus back on that and do all the merging, which I'm sure will be a fun exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about the encoding, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, so many encoding problems. I'm glad it was brought up because we've been using a hack internally to allow Python 3 agents to run in Python 2, and it's quite gross. And someone I think Brandon had mentioned that, hey, maybe we ought to switch over to your Python 3 version of VOLTTRON, and I'm like, well, we could, but I wanted to see where you guys were on that. So, I mean, we're gonna live with our hack for a little bit longer, and then once you guys have finished it up, we'll switch over.
Okay.
And I imagine what as soon as we're done with this RabbitMQ branch, we will have the Python 3 branch, and that will be where you can test things out before like fully adopting.
Sure. Well, we've got
and pull requests are obviously helpful.
Any pull requests I send you right now would not our internal hack is not nearly as far along as
I totally get that. Yeah.
So
once it's started is what I mean.
Yeah. So I assume you'll be pushing to get that into develop.
Oh yeah.
As soon as possible. Yeah. Once you've got it into develop, I'll pull it in and go through the effort of updating our stuff, and then yes, I will definitely send you pull requests.
Sweet.
Cool.
So.
Do you guys have a timeline when that will show up in develop?
So hopefully it will show up and develop sometime in June, maybe. I think that would probably be a decent time frame, if not before. But
the experimental
June
branch coming before then.
Yeah, the experimental branch will definitely be coming before that.
Yeah.
With the real release probably the beginning of August, before the users meeting. We'll see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
fortunately, the way that we've created the way that the interface for VOLTTRON itself via the agent was created in the first place, there's like it's almost no work. There's a
Yeah.
very small amount of work in order to update an agent to work with 3, unless you're using a lot of Python 2 specific stuff. But if you're doing if you have print statements in your agent, you're doing it wrong. You should be using the logger. And if you're using the logger, you should be set. I think all you have to really update is like setup.py needs like one small modification, and then whatever you can run 2 to 3 on your agent code, and it usually will do everything you need it to.
I can't imagine many people are doing much encoding, decoding on the agent code itself.
Yeah. Well, there's like lots of other little hairs. It's I mean, most of the stuff you do with the agent anyway is done through the the core agent interface. So and none of that changes.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to hear that. Yeah, but still looking forward to have a 3-branch, then start testing and yeah, seeing what is working, what not.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll talk and see when we could get a 3-branch out there. If people are okay with one with a little bit more potential warts, then we could get it out earlier probably.
Yeah. It won't have any of the new message bus stuff in it.
Right.
That branch was started that was started before the RabbitMQ stuff started making it back into develop. So that's so if you don't care about the RabbitMQ stuff, I mean, we could probably post a link and you can probably start using it right now. There's just going to be a few things that don't work, like
right.
VOLTTRON Central is, I'm not sure if it was working. I think we were working on making the tests work, so there's probably a few bugs in there. But if you're just doing all command line stuff, you should be okay. I know that like the core, all of the like really important core stuff works. The config store works. The authentication.
All the stuff Kyle cares about works.
Oh, all the stuff. Well, the drivers. All the drivers work. VOLTTRON, all the stuff that you need to make it work from the command line, I believe, and have a fully functioning system. The actuator agent. I believe all of the historians work. So you can get something up and works. Now, if you want to use VOLTTRON Central, I can't guarantee anything right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but it sounds good actually. Makes us curious.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean that we definitely want to get switched over to 3, and even without the end of life for 2.7, there's been several instances where people wanted to use something in that had only a Python 3 version, and so this will help with that. For the longest time we had some libraries that we were depending on that didn't have that were only in 2.7, but now once that problem was resolved, then we're pretty happy.
Yeah, that problem that hasn't been a problem in a few years now.
Yeah, so now it's
just a matter of getting to it.
Yep. So, all right. Any other questions or comments?
And there are some neat features in 3 now, especially 3.6 and 3.7.
Yeah.
I was curious if you had any suggestions for best practices for packaging agents.
So yeah, there's actually 3 or 4 different ways of doing it. The easiest way is to just use VPKG, which is the VOLTTRON package command. If you'd like, I can show what that does. But there's actually a script. So if we're talking about packaging so that you can ship it someplace else, or are we talking packaging so that it just packages and installs on the system? So I just need the context that you're asking the question about.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a column A and a little bit of column B.
Okay, so I can actually give you an example. I'll just give a little ad hoc tutorial here. I'm all about doing things dynamically. Okay, so start. So this is going to start up the VOLTTRON process. And what I have, can you see my screen, everybody? Let's just verify that that's true.
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, so so this script is one of the scripts that comes in the VOLTTRON repository. It's an install agent script, and this is basically the all-in-one kind of script that takes the path to the agent that you want to install, the config file that you want to use, the identity that you want it to be referenced on the platform, and then a start command. There's also an enable command that you can add to it. But the force allows it to to uninstall and reinstall the same agent. So that's one thing. So if you wanted to do, and then assuming you ran that, what happens under the hood is it goes and it installs, or it creates these wheel files in the package directory in your VOLTTRON home that you can take, and you can move this wherever you need it to be moved. You can do it wherever, and then you can install it using VPKG. And I don't remember the arguments, but you can. This one's all ready to go. It's got its configuration file in it. So actually, you can just do vctl install and vc platform agent wheel, and that will install the wheel. But for right now, because I'm running from the wrong directory, yeah, I do, don't I? Dot in front of it. VC. So that should, and it gives us this because the agent, I've already installed this agent, and it knows the identity that it wants because that's inside the wheel file. So we can remove it and then install the package directly from there. And there you go. So now it's installed that package, and we can see the status. Again, it's back after we removed it. And it was a 2, and now it's a 7 because it's a different identity, or a different GUID. But so that's how you can do it. There's also VPKG, which you can use to, that's what the install file actually uses. It goes through a package phase, it goes through a configure phase, and then you can install it. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
That's helpful.
And while we're here, Craig, maybe just show VOLTTRON Home real quick to show where all those things ends up.
So my VOLTTRON Home is right, for this one is right here. Standardly, the standard VOLTTRON Home is your home directory.voltron. So that's where that is. Oh, do you want me to just do like tree or something?
Yeah, do tree just to show.
Okay. So if we tree it, we see that this one has, we have the agents, and this one has a master driver, and it has a VOLTTRON central platform, And then we have an auth.json file. This file is used for authentication with the ZMQ bus, as well as permissions that are for different capabilities. We have the certificates directory, which is for RabbitMQ with all the certs. These are all the certificates that are known to the platform and are also by default known to RabbitMQ. We have a pending certs and a pending CSRs. These are the pending CSR is what I was going to display today, but these are all your private keys. These are remote certs that we have accepted. I don't know what whitelist is. We have Kyle's config store. We have the main VOLTTRON config file, which was what was documented in the earlier in the documentation that we had. We have key stores. This is where the public and private key are stored for identified agents. The key store has a public and private key pair in it for use in the ZMQ. You have a log directory that I believe is unused at this point in time. We have the package directory, which is where the wheels are packed up. We have a protected topics, and that protects the message bus topics for reading and writing. You have the RabbitMQ config file, which has where this contains the ports that are for a RabbitMQ service. The main RabbitMQ config file that is added when you do a VOLTTRON config RabbitMQ single instance. That's where this gets. The VOLTTRON users is a new file that is for the new web admin. This is where your login credentials are held in a secure manner. And VOLTTRON PID. So if that file is there, you should have a VOLTTRON running. If it's not, there shouldn't be. If the process ID inside of that file is there and you start it up, but the process ID is different, that means that there was a crash. That's correct, right, Tranjuka? Yeah, okay. What's VOLTTRON config.log? Do you know? The config stores log. Okay, I've never looked at that one. Anyways, okay, so that's
yeah. I just wanted
very
to,
brief overview.
Yeah, it's just I just didn't want people might not know about this. Otherwise, I didn't want anything to appear magic. So this is the working directory for all the all the config files, all the agents, wherever everything gets installed.
Yeah, if you want to like start fresh, you delete this and you're fresh.
And the system will, do all the basic install and everything that you need. Since we seem to have a few new people on, Craig, while you're here, do you want to do? Did you want to maybe just do a VCFG real quick? The VOLTTRON. So we have a VOLTTRON command line wizard for setting up some basic VOLTTRON instances, just a kind of a convenience thing. Do you mind running through that real quick, Craig?
No, I don't mind running.
Okay.
All right, but what I am going to do is I'm going to start this again.
Yeah.
And we'll just go from just a plain slate. So my repositories are all under repo, and so if we go into cd repo and VOLTTRON RabbitMQ. So this is where my repositories generally lie. And this time I'm not going to use what I normally do because I have an activate script that activates and sets everything up for me. Instead, we're just gonna do the standard default, which is source env bin activate. And what this does is this puts your command line shell in a context that's available, that so VOLTTRON's available. That adds things like the VCTL command and really okay, VCFG, which is what Jeremy's talking about, which is a way to get you started with some of our core agents that come with the platform. As you see, my VOLTTRON home is at my user directory .voltron, and we have an an IPv4 address is the address structure that we use with VOLTTRON. The default port for VOLTTRON is 229.1.6, which is VIP. So 2 letters are V, and IP is the other ones. Brandon, what's the representation here? 22 is V, 9 and 16.
Yeah, 22 is V, 9 is I, 16 is P.
Yeah, so
it can be any port, so just
yeah, you can change it to whatever. It needs to be above a certain threshold so that you don't have to elevate it in order to have root permissions. So we can set up a VOLTTRON central platform, and then we can set up the rest of this. And I'm actually not going to go through the rest because the way I actually use this is I don't choose to use all of it, but there's some other things that you can do. You can configure very specific things. Like I would configure a listener, a VC, and a VCP, and you can do that through using the agents command. So this will go through some of the same process. Of course, the fact that I haven't tried this in a while makes this a costly thing. But anyways.
So anyway, so yeah, so that's just wanted people to be aware of this command line feature. So if you follow the prompts, what you can end up with is a VOLTTRON instance with a listener, a master driver that has a fake driver on it, so that you'll get data published out to the message bus that the listener can see. You can get a SQLite historian installed, and you can install VOLTTRON Central and a platform agent, so that you can see the data appear in the UI for VOLTTRON Central. And that's a way to get started. And then there's, as Craig was showing, there's some command line things. If you want to just add that stuff after the fact, you can just use that agent command.
This one actually, yeah, go ahead.
I had what I hope is a quick question about the configuration store.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the documentation I read is around how to use the config store in a command line application. But I thought I read somewhere, for the life of me, I can't find where I originally read it, but I thought there was also support for agents being able to configure each other through the configuration store over the VIP, which would be extremely useful for like dynamic configuration, where we have an agent that's designed to improve the configuration to make another agent more accurate for like forecasting like services in the future. But I couldn't find any documentation on it. Is that possible to do? And where, if so, where could I find more information about what the proper way to use that feature is?
So by default, that's one of the things that Kyle decided was that that's not something that we wanted to expose. A config store is meant to be your own. However, the VOLTTRON central platform, if I remember correctly, does this, and I'm gonna look here real quick and see if that's actually true.
I can say a little bit more about the application just for context, but the idea is like, if we had an agent, for example, that was predicting solar power forecasts, right, based on weather data, and it contained information about like panel tilt and orientation and there could be another agent that's basically looking at historic accuracy and basically processing that data to try to infer what the true configuration of that agent should be, and then dynamically improving it over time. So being able to do that through the config store seems like an elegant solution.
Yeah, so you could have one agent controlling others' configurations, or it could send a message to that other agent and say, update your configuration yourself with this information.
Right, either one would be good. Like the latter might be easier to control permission flow, right? Because that way it could basically only allow certain IDs to change its config. But yeah, either would work. Yeah.
Okay, so an agent can certainly change its own configuration.
Mm-hmm.
And
so you're saying a simple way to do that would just be like having an RPC that you expose to another agent, and just putting all the code inside there.
Yes, that would be the optimal way, the proper way, I think, to do it.
Okay. So basically, so that would be the recommended technique rather.
And actually, I believe that's it. I believe that you already have that in the config store itself.
Config store already has it.
Yeah.
There's some examples of I think what's what we're talking about going on, and for example, master driver agent test mod bus driver is doing a bit of configuration. Hopefully that's what we're talking about.
So the config store, I believe, does where in this config store does it actually do that, Chandrika?
I don't remember which module it is, but definitely the master config store has RPC calls to update config of a given agent.
Okay.
I don't know which module it is.
Well, we can figure this out and give you an answer. Certainly write up an example doing just that, and the best practice anyways.
Well, maybe next office hours we could just do a big session on the config store.
Sure.
I think
that would be great. Yep.
Okay, because I think it's been a while since we did that.
I can kind of see. It's like I want to make sure I'm using it the right way, right?
Right.
Yeah, actually, for config store right now, it's like for RPC calls, there is no restriction, and it's one of our to-do lists to actually control it, like through the auth mechanism to say, okay, which agent can change, which agent or agents config store.
Yeah, so that's something Chandrika is working on right now.
Yeah.
Actually, but we could certainly have a session at the next office hours to just cover. We can cover config store as it is now, and then where it's going.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Okay. Cool. Okay. And yeah, if anybody else has topics they'd like to cover, please just go ahead and email us.
May I just a quick question with regards to the .voltron home directory and the tree that I think Craig just showed us. And there was a directory with a lot of private keys in there. Can you just quickly elaborate how they get there and what functionality or what component does create them?
So with the RabbitMQ, there's a management service that is responsible for creating those when you have a local platform that is a local agent that is connected to the RabbitMQ bus.
Okay.
So those will get created on startup, both the private as well as the certificate, so that it connects, so that your local agent can connect to the local or the RabbitMQ instance.
Yeah, okay, good, understood. That's the reason why we never stumbled across them, because we're not using RabbitMQ yet. All right.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a simple explanation. Yeah, thanks.
Well, and if there's any, if you have any topics that you'd want to see covered at the next office hours, so that you don't have to stumble through things, just let us know. We'd be happy to cover anything of interest.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think unless there's any last questions, I think we'll call it here. Thanks everybody for calling in, and yeah, thanks for the topic suggestions. I think that's, we want to make sure that we're hitting the topics people are interested in, and just in general, if you have questions, let us know. Even if you think that they're basic or esoteric, or whichever direction, just let us know, and we'll be happy to cover them. All right.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for calling in. All right. Bye.
Thank you.